Hey everybody, it's time for another Knowledge is Power video. In these videos, I give you some lessons from my premium content library. These are full-length lessons so you can experience my teaching style and see what kind of material is in the library and hopefully learn something new. So consider these videos free samples of the lessons. If you haven't looked into the premium library, there is information on a free trial below the video. If you do the free trial and decide the premium library is not for you, no problem. We can cancel your account and you will not hear from me again. I want to emphasize that other than eBay prices on the items I talk about, which can fluctuate over time, the lessons are evergreen, which means that the information has been true for a long time and will continue to be true in the future. That is what I focus on when creating these lessons, because why learn something that's only going to be true for a short time? I don't do hype. I only give you factual information that you can use for a long time, maybe even forever, that will help you be a better seller and ultimately make more money. This video is about an hour long, so grab your favorite beverage and let's get ready for class. In this lesson, we're going to go over pop-up books, which are also referred to as paper engineering. And this lesson will be in the book section as well as ephemera because it really straddles those two categories. Pop-up books are expensive and time-consuming to create, and the level of skill and artistry needed to create them is far greater than a regular book. Fewer of them are produced than, say, just a regular children's book. So over time, they become more valuable. Not only are they more expensive new, but because fewer of them are created, the value increases over time. The less there is of something, the more it is worth. So, for example, a pop-up book about transformers, there's not going to be millions of them created. There will only be a limited number because of the expense to create them. So that's why this is a great product to look for. It's already limited in number, regardless of the age of the item. I have a couple of videos for you that were created by professionals in this industry, so their presentation is much better than mine would be. The first one is by the pop-up book lady, and she shows us some of her collection and explains a bit about the history of paper engineering. The second video is of an actual paper engineer who explains the time and skill and the whole process of making these books. And they're not just for kids, they are actually works of art. And these things are out there and you can find them. And then at the end, I will go over some selling prices, showing you on Terapeak how much these books can sell for depending on many factors such as the age of the book, the author, how intricate the paper engineering is, meaning how much time it took to make. So I just found this was a fascinating product that we might come across in our travels out in the wild looking for things to sell.
My husband and I went on safari, and in a little hut was a gift shop, and they sold elephant dung paper. And I bought several pieces and sent them to my pop-up friends, the paper engineers, saying, well, what are you going to do with this? And so Ed Hutchins, who is just a great dear, he made this for me. Thinking of you. This is an elephant made of elephant dung paper.
That's really the circle of life right there.
That's recycling at its best.
I am Ellen G.K. Rubin, and I collect pop-up and movable books and paper. I think I wanted to know a body of work instead of a smattering of this and that, something that I could sink my teeth into. And wanting to be an expert on something was a goal. I get contacted by scholars, people doing their theses. They come here, they do some research here, or they inquire of me because I literally get it from around the world of people doing research on the flap books or on the Vovels. I would go to a cocktail party or a place where I didn't know many people, and people will say, well, what do you do? Do you work? That question was always answered. Do you mean outside the home? And I went to Yale Medical School to be a physician associate. Most people call it physician assistant. And then when I was working outside the home, I said, oh, I do bone marrow transplants. And they immediately left my side. I have to refresh my drink or something. Nobody wanted to know anything about what I did. And so I quickly learned to say, oh, well, I collect and write about pop-up and movable books. And their instant smile, which we call the smile effect, and they would say, oh, I love those books. When I have the opportunity to talk to people about pop-ups, there are three things I want them to know. One, they did not start in the 1970s the way these Random House books did. And the earliest books, and I just showed you one from 1547, were not for children. They were for adults, and they were used as instruments. To this day, every movable book is handmade. I tell this story when I was in first grade. The class subscribed to Humpty Dumpty magazine. And so it was for first graders, and with scissors and glue, you could make things. And then, when we got to second grade, my classmates graduated to Children's Digest, and I refused because Children's Digest didn't have things to make. I enjoy doing this, but I don't have the skills that these require, and actually most conservators do not have the skill. I consider myself a cheerleader, and when I started collecting, publishers did not put the paper engineer's name anywhere in the book. That seemed to me criminal because it's not a pop-up book without a paper engineer. And that's where I got the idea that paper engineers, and I didn't even know the term at that point, but paper engineers are the artists who take the illustrations and make them move, and that they are puppet masters, but they hand the strings to us, the reader. We are the ones who activate everything, who make them come alive. My son knows I collect elephants, and so he created this Build-A-Bear, and he sewed this little pop-up book onto the elephant, and he created this.
I love the pop-up lady. She's my very best friend.
There is something kind of like amazing about taking something that's just paper, it's just like this 2D thing, and sort of rearranging it and cutting it up and making it into something that you can't believe happens. My name is Matthew Reinhardt, and I am a pop-up book artist. The background that I have in zoology and anatomy and all those sort of things, that comes in a lot to the way that I engineer, because you look at the way things come together, the way things move. If the body goes outward like this, you don't want the folds to be going inwards on something. All these things work together so that it feels natural. The other one that I think made the biggest impact on me were Transformers. Just the actual toys. There was something about the way that they went together and became something else, this transformations changing. That aspect I think really stayed with me, and I think that that's why I still collect Transformers and have thousands. I'll write out an outline, just a basic idea of what the pop will be. T-Rex, head, bites, reader, that's it. I don't know how it's gonna happen with all the engineering, I just know that that's what I want to happen. The next step is actually engineering by hand. Like, there isn't a computer program that does this stuff. It's like low-tech engineering. We're using really simple stuff. Me cutting up paper and folding it and taping it. I use like an artist tape. That makes a nice hinge. There's another way that you can attach paper, you know, so that like one piece will go through kind of another. It's a really loose hinge. There are really two main mechanisms. V-fold is probably the most important. It causes things to move in an arc. I mean, some of my pop-ups may use 20 of them all working in different directions to make one thing happen. The second one is something called a layer. Basically a box that's flat and then opening up. So that usually is used for structure. You have to first get the base structure and how that's going to fit on the page. You get the core built and then the arms can work around it. The V-folds that are moving directly off of the base page, those are the first ones that are really gonna activate. Opening the page is a chain reaction sort of event. That's where the energy is coming from to make these pieces work. That energy is distributing out to the first mechanisms that are built off of it. As you continue to open, there continues to be power, and that is moving further outward. You can build a V-fold, and then you can build a V-fold off a V-fold. I mean, it can go on indefinitely. And the further I work away from the base page, it's gonna happen later. Sometimes people only open it, you know, maybe 90 degrees, just to get a peek in there. Because you want something to happen in that first bit that will get them excited. And there's certain ways that you can adjust things so that something happens within that short amount of time. Narrow V-folds, they open completely very quickly because there's not a huge arc that they have to move across. But they also don't move very much. There's also very wide V-folds that move like this huge arc. So you may not see any of that action until those last moments before you open the book completely flat. But usually if you're working close enough to the center fold, then you're getting all that happening relatively soon. So there's sort of rules with some of this engineering, and I'll bend the rules to make those mechanisms work. I've used different types of paper and things. There's one pop-up from my Dragons book that actually uses tissue paper garlands to build its body. Usually when you make a pyramid on a pop-up, structurally it just sits there. I didn't like the size that I could get from doing that. So the pyramid actually flips. Later, I started making pops that there was some way of affecting that three-dimensional object to turn into something else. It's like I cheat and get an extra pop in. In Lego, there's I think it's the tallest one I've ever done. Like almost pokes you in the face. You know, everyone who's seen it is like kind of freaked out that that thing can get, you know, like this high within the book. Like most of what I do, I don't know how I did it. I mean, I do, but I don't. Like, it's like, what were you thinking about that month? You have to rebuild things over and over and over again, make sure they work right. One little thing could go wrong and you have to figure out things to counter that. I built the Optimus Prime from my Transformer pop-up probably about 25 times because there's so many different moving pieces that have to work. Making pop-ups is something a kid can do. You know, you've got the material and you've got the tools like scissors and you've got some tape. I do it for them. I do it for, you know, of course myself. I want to wow me. I want to wow any reader, you know, any age. Hopefully it gets them excited about like, how's this done? And can I do this? And I want to make this and I want to be creative.
Okay, here we are on eBay using Terapeak, and I did a pretty general search for the keywords pop-up book and included everything except brand new because while I do like to give you best case scenario, I also like to be realistic. And most of what we find out in the world is going to be used. Another part of this I want to mention is that when you're doing your research, you will see that rare, signed, and first edition books will always sell for the most because there are fewer of them. So just keep that in mind when you're doing your research. It doesn't mean you won't find them, it just means the chances of finding them are going to be less. So here are some examples of pop-up books you might actually find and that are recognizable. The first one, Tim Burton, The Nightmare Before Christmas, in used condition went for $249.95. And then there is a Transformers pop-up book. This one says collectible first, meaning it's first edition. That one went for $225. Those are two that you might recognize from pop culture. The next one is Encyclopedia Mythologica, Dragons and Monsters pop-up book, Matthew Reinhardt. It's the paper engineer we saw in the clip just before this, so his name is on a lot of these pop-up books because he is a leader in that industry. That went for $200. The fourth one is from 1896. You're not likely to find one that old, but that one, since it is quite collectible, went for $199.95. And then a vintage Mickey Mouse pop-up book sold for $189.99. And interestingly enough, there is a Dr. Seuss pop-up that did show up in the research several times. The book is titled Oh, the Places You'll Go, and this is the pop-up. There's also a regular book that's not a pop-up, does not sell for this much, but this is one that you might recognize. Won't be so hard to remember because we pretty much all know about Dr. Seuss. That sold for $179.41. There are a lot of the Japanese style pop-up books in the research. You can see that second one sold for $170. What is great about pop-up books is that they're fat, they're thick, and if you can look down on them from above, you can see the paper and how it's folded within the book, so they're pretty easy to spot without having to look through every single book. If you just want to glance over the book section, you want to look for those thick, fat children's books and pull it out enough from the shelf to see if it has the folded pages inside, and then you can look further. So then we move on down to The Nightmare Before Christmas, 1967. That sold for $162.23. And there are quite a few Christmas books within the pop-up category. I remember as a small child, I was born in 1966, we used to get pop-up books for Christmas. So that has always been a thing within Christmas books are the pop-ups. And then if you look at the bottom there again, Dr. Seuss's The Places You'll Go pop-up, that one went for $149. And then going on down the line, we've got some repeats here with Tim Burton's book, Nightmare Before Christmas, some other Christmas books, and then Christmas in New York, a pop-up book by Chuck Fisher, $101.95. There are some hidden treasures out there within the children's books, and it might just take you 10 or 15 minutes to look through them, but you might come across something like this that sells for a lot of money. Now, one thing I want to mention is these will sell for great prices, sometimes only in acceptable condition. All of the pop-ups and movable parts don't even have to work or be present within the book. It could still sell anyway. So don't get hung up on the book not being in perfect condition, especially if you're new to this category. You'll just need to take a chance. Books are usually pretty cheap, less than $2, and see what happens. That's the only way you're going to find out, is just to do it and put it out there and see what you get. And just to prove my point, this is a screenshot of sold pop-up books in acceptable condition over a 1-year period. Over 1,600 sold from 519 total sellers. So that tells me that these books will still sell in acceptable condition. And it's not all coming from just a few sellers. There's over 500 different sellers that saw sales of these books in acceptable condition. I know a lot of us are kind of OCD about what we sell and we want it to be in perfect condition, but remember, these are collectible. A lot of them have been used by children and used a lot, so they do see some wear, but take a chance. Pay the $2, put it out there, see what you get. There was a lot more information about pop-up books, but hopefully I have condensed that enough to open your eyes to this category. And if you're in the thrift stores or garage sales or even library sales anyway, you can look for these and maybe explore a new category that will be a money maker for you. As always, I appreciate your comments. If this is something you are already doing and you have any information to add, I really appreciate that. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.
Hi, premium members. I received this question several times over the last couple of weeks, so here's your video.
There was a discussion on my Facebook group yesterday about how to handle selling items with price tags showing markdowns. Now, we all know there are some buyers out there that only want to buy things that are new with tag, or maybe they want to give it as a gift and they want it to be new and have the tags on it, or whatever their reason is. Some people just prefer new with tag items. The conflict is that you want to be able to advertise the item is new with tag. So, whether you're putting NWT in your title or talking about it in your description, and also in the item specifics, being able to click that choice that says new with tag, so that when the search is sorted and filtered, it's going to show up in the right place. And should you even be concerned with potential buyers seeing that markdown on the tag? What is the best way to handle it? So I'm going to go through some suggestions and then give you my strategy, what I do after having been in this business for so long. One suggestion was to scribble out the markdowns with a Sharpie. Just mark them out so they're not even there at all. Or cut off the price tag, which would be the one here with the writing on it, and leave the other tag, and it may be the brand name tag, or Macy's or whatever that is, and then you can still say it's new with tag. It just won't have any of the pricing information on it. Or you could cut off the part below the barcode if you're planning to price lower than that markdown price here at the top. So in this case, it would be the $48.99. Somebody suggested that you could just remove this other stuff here at the bottom, and if you're only going to price it lower than this here, it's not going to matter. Or use WD-40 to smudge out or remove the markdowns. That's kind of tough anytime you use like an oil-based solvent on paper. It could ruin the paper, it could bleed, it could just cause a big mess. So I don't know if I would do that. And I certainly wouldn't want any type of tag that's had WD-40 on it next to next to the garment. I put all my stuff in plastic bags, so here's this tag that would have had a oil-based solvent on it in with the garment, and that could cause staining. So I don't recommend doing that, but that's just my opinion. Or use an X-Acto knife to slice off a layer of the paper so that those aren't there. Okay. Now, here's my opinion. You need to be careful what you do, because the buyer will have this item in their hands eventually, and you don't want to be seen as dishonest. I've been selling clothing on eBay since 2003, and I have come across this situation frequently. Every time I list batches of clothing, there's usually something in there new with tag that has a markdown on it. And I just leave it alone. I leave the tag exactly as it is with the markdown on it. And I say in my listing, new with original whatever price tag. You've got your bases covered. It's still new. And you're being honest. It is new with the original tag. That's the key word here, original. Having the original price on that item helps sell it. If we go back to my cover picture here, this is from one of my items. And so I can say here, Talbot's Woman Petites, whatever this thing is, new with $180 tag, because it is. That was the original price. I can say in the description, original price $180. So, I'm being honest, and it helps show the value of the item, because the value of the item doesn't change because somebody wrote on the tag and marked it down. It still was $180. It still has that original value. The store is trying to turn it over. They're trying to, get their inventory out of there so they can make room for the next batch of stuff that's coming in. So being able to say new with original whatever price tag helps sell your item, and you want to show that in the pictures. And it's fine if it's got the markdown on it. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Now you're going to say, well, what if the buyer sees the markdown? Well, they're going to see it because you're taking a picture of the tag exactly as it is, and they're going to see those markdowns. So, okay. So what if they see it? Big deal. If you have what they want, the markdowns won't matter. If you're selling a Pendleton size 22 women's long plaid wool skirt, and it's a plus size, it's hard to find, or a pair of shoes that's a 9 narrow or whatever it is, and it's got a tag on the bottom of it with some markdowns on it, that person doesn't care. If you have what they want, the markdowns aren't going to matter to the person buying it. And I have sold thousands of items new with tag with markdowns on the tag, and I have never received a complaint. Now, they may message you and say, this skirt was $180 new and you're selling it for $59, but the markdowns are such and such. And they're, some of these have already sold on eBay for $12. And I just reply back with, thank you for that information. Feel free to make an offer. This is my price. And if they don't want to pay it, they're not going to pay it. But those markdowns on the tag really have nothing to do with the market at that moment. Because I say this all the time, you may have the exact thing someone is looking for. Size, color, style, brand, whatever it is. And an item is worth what someone will pay for it at any given moment. So that's what you have to think about. Don't worry about these markdowns on the tags. The world has caught on to reselling. They know we are picking items and selling them for more than we pay. Okay, so what? You've got a cashmere sweater with a $150 tag on it, and there's some markdowns on it, marked down to $80. But you found it for $3 at a thrift store. Nobody cares. the person who wants that sweater is going to pay the market price for it. I think it's more important to have integrity and not alter or manipulate the tag rather than try to obscure the markdown and then have the buyer discover it and question your integrity. If you use liquid paper on a tag and just so it'll look pretty in your picture, or you want to cover up those markdowns, and then the buyer gets it and looks at it really closely and sees that the tag has been manipulated, that may speak to your honesty and integrity as a seller, and that could affect getting feedback. You just never know how people are going to interpret these things. Just leave it alone and sell it as is, and don't worry about those markdowns.
Okay, and that's how I handle price tags with markdowns. I hope that information was helpful, and if you have any questions, feel free to email me or post them below. Thanks for watching and have a great day on eBay. Bye.
Hello eBay students, welcome back to another fun learning video, and the brand in this video is Monster Energy. This is in the collectibles section, although it is a more modern, contemporary brand. It is not vintage, but because of the advertising strategy, it is considered collectible, so you may run across some of these things in your travels out there sourcing. It's referring to the Monster Energy drinks. These are like Red Bull, whatever, with a lot of caffeine and stuff in them. And just a side note, I tried these back when they first came out as an alternative to falling asleep in the middle of the day, or, just being a busy mom and needing more energy. And I thought my heart was going to beat out of my chest. It was like, it really is very stimulating. If you try them, be careful. Only try a little bit. What this company does is they do a lot of sponsorships, and they're involved in extreme sports. So let me just read you the About Us so you'll understand what's going on here. Most companies spend their money on ad agencies, TV commercials, radio spots, and billboards to tell you how good their products are. At Monsters, we choose none of the above. Instead, we support the scene, our bands, athletes, and our fans. We back athletes so they can make a career out of their passion. We promote concert tours so our favorite bands can visit your hometown. We celebrate with our fans and riders by throwing parties and making the coolest events we can think of a reality. At Monster, we are all about the things you care about. What kid dreams about landing a 9-to-5 job? We all dreamed about being pro athletes, musicians, and living the life. We know it takes encouragement and support to make that dream a reality, so we created the Monster Army to back the next generation pros, the future Ricky Carmichael, Jeremy McGrath, Danny Krass, and Jamie Bestwicks, all of which I don't know who any of those people are. Bottom line is that they do their advertising through their events and sponsorships. It's kind of like Starbucks that doesn't really advertise. Their advertising is their cups that everyone's carrying around and their stores all over the place. That's just how they do their advertising. So you may not have heard of this. Now, as far as their target audience, Monster Energy is an energy drink introduced by Hanson Natural Company, now Monster Beverage Corporation, in April of 2002. So, they haven't been around that long. It's not like Coca-Cola or Pepsi, like everyone knows what this is. The company is also known for supporting many extreme sports events, such as Bellator, MMA, Ultimate Fighting Championships, BMX, motocross, speedway, skateboarding, all that kind of stuff. And that's how I found out about this. Is I have a friend whose son is into all of that, motocross, working on cars. This is very big in that world. So people in that world like this logo, and they make a lot of logoed clothing that then ends up in the thrift stores. Eventually it filters down like everything else does. So this friend had a couple things that they wanted me to sell, and one was a hoodie with the logo on it, and one was a motocross shirt. And both of them sold within a week for $50 each. And so that was a nice little consignment sale. I just kind of did it as a favor. I'm like, yeah, I'll do it, but I get half of what it sells for. So that's how I got onto this. The sales were really quick. Here we are on eBay, and I put in Monster Energy for all categories to see what we get. And obviously there's going to be things on here that are signed or, rare. So that's not really going to apply, but you can see it's not oversaturated with this brand, which makes it a niche item, and you might, if you find it, be able to sell these things quickly and or for a great price. So let's go look at what's sold and for how much, and things that you might actually find. There's a lot of refrigerators and coolers and stuff like that that you're probably never going to find, but you never know. You might see it on a Facebook group and be able to get it cheap and then resell it or something like that. So I'm just going to go over here to clothing. There's 1,200 results in the clothing departments that are sold, and I'm leaving this as new and used because since this company creates promotional materials, you may find them new because you go to a motocross event, you get all this free stuff for participating, you don't like it, it gets donated to Goodwill, and then we come along and pick it up. So, like hats, here we are. See how easy that is to identify now that you know what to look for. The green sort of squiggly looking Monster M, and here it is on a hat that sold for $250. Okay, here's some more hats that sold for over $200 because they're hard to find. They're not mass produced. They're at these events, and then they're given out to the participants of the events that paid to be there. Another thing you might see are these backpacks. So there's the logo on it, and here is like a motocross shirt. Here's some more athletic wear. Here's a jacket that sold for $169. I love finding these things, or at least identifying these things that have these very recognizable logos on them, so that when you only have a few minutes in a thrift store, you can quickly look for things that are going to pop off the shelves at you, and you're going to know immediately because you have studied this and you know what these logos are. So here's more hats, selling for over $100 for a snapback hat. That's just amazing to me. And here's another hat. Lots of hats. Let's see what else they've got. Jacket. They took a best offer, but they started it at $129. And then here's a shirt. Here's another shirt. Sold for over $100. Looks like a hoodie there. A fedora hat. So that's what you want to remember here are these logoed items that could also be promotional items. Usually a promotional item is going to be a hat, a t-shirt, a jacket. They're not going to give coffee mugs to their audience because they're these extreme sports people. So maybe even the beer can koozies or stuff like that. There's just all kind of things out there. Here's even a pair of shoes. Okay, that's cool. Backpacks. Here is, this is kind of like what I sold, was one of these jackets. And because it was a hoodie type thing. But this was one bid went for $85 just because it's got this Monster Energy on it. The brand of the jacket has nothing to do with it. It's all about this logo. Here's a drink bottle. It sold for $80. That's looks like UK pricing, but still. And then looks like some sunglasses, another hoodie. So you get the idea. So again, here's the logo, the green, scary looking Monster M on the black background. Look for this on clothing and hats and any kind of promotional item you might see in the junk in the back, because this brand has a real following in the extreme sports world and they love this stuff. Welcome back to another episode of What is This and How Much Does It Sell For? I see this mystery item posted on my Facebook group at least once a week. And I just sit back and wait for other people to answer because a lot of people know what this is, but just as many do not know what it is. And the mystery item can look like almost anything. So it's often assumed to be something else. So here is a hint to help you guess what the mystery item is. Okay, what we're talking about is flower frogs. And obviously they're not real frogs, but they can look like anything. People think they might be a pencil holder or just a statue. And as we're going to look at in a minute, they're works of art. So they can be functional or decorative. But let's go over what a flower frog is and then look at some examples of what they look like and how much they sell for. So a flower frog is a wire, metal, glass, or ceramic device set in the bottom of a vase or container used to hold and secure cut flowers. But they don't always have to be set inside a vase or container. They can be freestanding too. They can look like this with all these spikes sticking up, or a little cage that the flower stems can stick into. And like all other things sold on eBay, people collect these. They have huge collections of all different kinds of flower frogs because what's interesting is these are made from all sorts of materials across all different categories of collectibles, and they can look like almost anything. And one theme for flower frogs is an actual frog. That's a flower frog. Here's another collection I found on Pinterest, and you can see there's some plastic looking ones. Those might be lucite or glass. There's metal, all different kinds. They're not always round. They can be all different shapes. Here's another pretty collection of these. Look to be glass, but you can see that they have the holes in them. So if someone doesn't know this word, they may think it's to go on a desk and hold pens and pencils, or they figure out that it holds something, but what it holds is flowers. Here are some more. These are ceramic, and they can be quite beautiful as far as the materials they're made from, the design, the colors, and some of these can be antique and be over 100 years old. Here's a real pretty one that's shaped like a flower. I've seen flower frogs like this posted on my Facebook group, and people will think it's a toothpick holder or a matchstick holder. They just can't figure out what goes in those holes. Another theme for flower frogs is beautiful women. For example, here we have this woman with a gorgeous skirt, and this is a more Art Deco style based on the website where I got the picture. But some are nudes that we'll see in the completed listings, and so that's also a common theme, is beautiful ladies. Flower frogs can be made of sterling silver. This one is an antique. and it's quite beautiful. Almost looks like a piece of jewelry. It's so ornate, but the holes in the middle confuse people. And then you can have animals, and so for example, this would not go down into a vase. It would stand alone, and you just stick the flowers in it. Instead of just a bud vase or a very small vase, you would use something like this. And so this is the type of item that gets mixed in with all the junk in the back of the thrift store. Like the people putting it out have no clue what it is. It might be with the figurines. It might be with the planters. It might be behind the counter at the front. Who knows? So keep your eye out for these in all departments because they show up everywhere. So let's go over to eBay and see how much these sell for, and you'll probably be shocked. I put in the keywords flower frog in all categories, and Terapeak, going back 1 year, shows over 20,000 sold. Now that is an inflated number because things like handbags with a flower and a frog on it are going to appear in the search results. So probably not quite as many as 20,000, but I would venture to say there are a lot sold within a year's time. So this is a great item to add to your inventory. What's also interesting is when I did the research on Terapeak, I found flower frogs in 14 different categories. So here they are, and you can see that it's just a matter of picking one because your item might apply to many different categories. It could be a vase, it could be a garden item, it could be under the name of the maker, such as Weller Pottery. It could be under planters. It could be under Made in Japan. So my advice is when you list something like this that can be listed in many different categories, if it hasn't sold within 3 months, go in and edit the listing or even end it and restart it and choose a different category. That might help it get more exposure because many categories could be correct. It's just a matter of getting it in front of the right person, especially if it's a collectible. So remember, these flower frogs can be functional. They can be something very mundane looking that goes down in a vase and is not meant to show. They could be decorative. So let's say somebody collects ladybugs and they want anything with a ladybug on it. Well, there may be a ladybug flower frog where the dots on the back are actually holes, and they don't care what the item is. They just collect ladybugs. So they are collectible, and they are pieces of art because, as you'll see in a minute, flower frogs are made by some of the high-end glass manufacturers, ceramic manufacturers. Some are over 100 years old. Some are signed by an artist. So this isn't just like a dumb little thing you might find at Goodwill with holes in it. It could be quite valuable once you do the research. So this is the high end of the spectrum as far as pricing. And you can see the highest priced flower frog went for over $7,500 because it was a scarce item, it was rare, it was signed, all those things. So, the sky's the limit on some of these collectibles. You don't know what you're going to find. You don't know what's going to get donated accidentally. You don't know what is out there that other people don't know the value of, and they just dumped it and got rid of it because they were doing a house clean out. And yes, I think I say that in every single video, but it's true. I see this every single week on my Facebook group on the Money Making Mondays. Things that people find in the trash, things that people find on a curb alert or actually in a dumpster or donated to a little church thrift store. this stuff is everywhere. So anyway, you can see there some of these higher prices for the flower frogs. That's what could happen. And in this slide, I want to show you the different brand names that are high-end brands, but yet they made flower frogs in addition to their beautiful glass or ceramic art pieces. So that first one there with the green background, Lalique, frosted crystal flower vase style, 2 doves including frog. So there's probably a flower frog down in the middle of that. I couldn't click on it to see because it was more than 90 days old. But Lalique is known for beautiful glass creations and just glass art. And then we have Weller. That is a well-known name as far as pottery. Steuben glass, that beautiful blue one right here, that is a high-end glass manufacturer that just makes beautiful, gorgeous pieces. Then we have Roseville, which is a ceramic manufacturer. So a couple of those in a row. And then Fenton Art Glass. That's also a high-end manufacturer of glass pieces, art glass. And then moving on, the prices are a little bit lower, but still $100 or more. Wedgwood Jasperware. Those are the blue pieces with the white figurines on them. We've got Tiffany, everybody knows that one. We've got California Pottery. And then this was a sterling silver frog. We've got Art Deco. And then another Weller down there. It's actually a frog that is a flower frog. And yes, those annoying frog sound effects are to help you remember the name of this item. So when you find a flower frog 6 months, a year, 2 years from now, you're going to remember the name because you made it through this video with the annoying, creepy frog sounds. So just a little teaching tactic to help you remember the name. Okay, and finally, I want to show you some more names because this isn't an item that you're going to look for a certain brand name. You're going to look for the item and then see what name is on it. So Longaberger, I didn't even know they made ceramic stuff until a couple of weeks ago when I found some Longaberger coffee mugs. So that was news to me. And then we've got Talavera Mexican Pottery. That's a well-known name, so that's a cute little red frog. We've got Blue Delft out of Williamsburg, Virginia. That's highly recognizable. And then here come the nudes. A vintage nude lady porcelain flower frog Art Deco made in Japan. So that doesn't even have a brand on it, but made in Japan is your key word to pay attention to because that means it's vintage. Then we've got another Art Nouveau silver female figure flower frog. Now I challenge you to say that 5 times fast. Silver female figure flower frog. Okay, anyway, so that's just a beautiful sleek silver piece and that sold for $80. And then down here we have a Hull Pottery Bird of Paradise flower frog. And Hull is known for their ceramic cookie jars and those types of pieces, but here they are with flower frogs as well. So now you know all you ever wanted to know about flower frogs, but were afraid to ask. So keep an eye out for these on those junky looking aisles where everything's all mixed up together because, like I said before, sometimes the employees at the thrift stores just don't know what something is, they're just hourly employees. They're just paid to put stuff away. Trust me, I observe these people doing their job and putting things away, and sometimes they are just completely zoned out. They're not paying attention. The only thing they care about is what time is their break or what time do they leave? How much longer do they have to be in the store today? So they're not real vigilant about putting things in the right places. And that's where we come along because we pay close attention and we look at everything. So anyway, as always, I hope you learned something new. If you have any input on flower frogs, post your comment below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye. All right. I hope you enjoyed these lessons and learned something new. Remember, the free trial information is below, and you can download anything and everything in the premium library, which is over 500 lessons, documents, and materials, and keep it forever. And you receive the help desk service directly with me via email during your trial period. I do not outsource that. I answer every question, and I encourage members to contact me anytime they have a problem, frustration, need to rant about something. I am here for you. So you have nothing to lose and everything to gain by giving the premium library a try. I want you to love it and use it and see how it can help your business. So I hope to see you there. Thanks for watching, and make it a profitable and productive day on eBay. I'll be back next week with my July sales update video, which is going to have some surprises. So make sure to come back for that. Bye, everybody.